and welcome to my channel. Today I thought it would be kind of fun to talk about art supplies and what I use. I use a variety of materials. I used to be kind of a purist and feel like I could only use watercolor, but in the past year I have branched out, and yeah, so I just thought that it might be interesting for you guys to see some of my techniques as well as the products that I love to use. None of these are sponsored. I'm not being sponsored by anyone, so this is just my honest opinion, and if there are any negative downsides to products, I will try to let you guys be aware of those. Since drawing is the basis of every painting for the most part, I thought I would start with my drawing utensils. For watercolors, I just have this, it's a Staples brand pencil. It's a 2HB, and I really like it. I just got it in a pack and it was super cheap, but I did a series of black and white / like gray illustrations recently, and I use this a lot for shading in that, and I loved it. And pencil works well underneath watercolor. You cannot really erase it once it's down, so if you do your drawing, you just want to make sure that any lines that you don't want to be part of the finished piece are erased before you put down your watercolor. Once I started moving on to Copic markers though, which I will show you in a little bit, I found that this was smearing under them, and Fran of Franerd, I will link her account below, but she suggested Prisma-colerase pencils, which I do have one right here. Initially I could not find these in any art store near me, so I did find Ticonderoga erasable pencil in carmine red, and that has worked really well for me. As you can see, the eraser is like gone at this point, but yeah, that's Ticonderoga. I got that at Hobby Lobby. The Prismacolor I was able to get for Christmas, ordered online, a big pack of all different colors of the Prisma-colerase. It's like colerase. And I love these. They kind of add extra life to my illustrations. Like, even though with watercolor I don't have to use these, I have started using them more. Here's an example of an illustration I did recently, and I used this one, the carmine red, to do the initial sketch. And so there's just little bits of pink left behind, which I actually really like. Some of this was done in Copic marker, some of it was done in watercolor. So if I'm planning on mixing the two mediums, it's definitely a good choice to go with the erasable colored pencil. Yes, those are my pencils. I do typically use pen, and this is a micron 005. It's waterproof. And it's archival quality, so it's supposed to not fade in the sun. So your illustrations, if they're hanging up on the wall near a window, they should be fine. So I love this. It's great. I actually started out in college using Uniball Vision, which is also a waterproof pen. It has more of like a liquidy look to the line though. It's a little bit thicker, and this is more like controlled and goes directly into your paper. It doesn't seem like it really spreads out at all. But you don't want to do either of these on wet watercolor unless you're trying to get like a black bloom, because that will happen. So you either have to do it before your watercolor or after it is completely dried. These are just Prismacolor pencils, and these are expensive, and to be honest, this is like a pack that I think I was not supposed to take from college. But here they are. 5 years later. So anyway, yes, these are Prismacolor, and I do use these occasionally. These ones that are in here are actually the ones that I don't use because I have the ones that I use in my little zipper pouch, but I didn't know these browns existed. I think I would like to use these. But anyway, when I am doing my illustrations, I will sometimes go in, for example, with this guy, and I will add like little textures and things like that before and after I do the watercolor or Copic marker. So that's just like a way that I like to add a little texture. I was so scared of colored pencils for a while because I had this idea that they needed to be like perfectly blended and everything, but there's been so many illustrators that have used them and kind of celebrated the texture that they create, and that has kind of helped me to feel more free with them, and I've really, really enjoyed using colored pencils in my work. Okay. Copic markers. I just started using these a year ago, and I would say that these are probably my favorite colors. I'll hold them so you guys can pause the video if you want to check those out. I don't know if I can say why they're my favorite colors. I like them. This one in particular I think is one of my favorites. It is E00 Cotton Pearl. And it has like a really pretty soft peachy look to it, which I just think is kind of an unusual color to get from a marker, so I really like that. And when you put these over pencil, they actually, like over a colored pencil, sometimes they blur it a little bit and it can create like a really nice look, so that's something to play with. I have a variety of types of watercolors I use. I have Windsor and Newton Cotman watercolors that are like in these tubes, and until I took my watercolor class in college, I didn't know that they came like this. I just thought that they'd be in like the little square palettes, but this is like a tube, and what you do is you get a palette. Pardon the fact that mine is a mess. And you squirt it on your palette, and then it dries, and then you can use your, here's an example, you can use your, wet paintbrush to kind of water it down, and then when it runs out, you just add more. So yeah, but this palette has been used for acrylic and watercolor, so it's pretty messy. In my class, we used to have to wash off our palette after every day, but I've kind of gotten away from that. And then you see here, I have what looks like this really bright red dye. It's really hard to get super vibrant colors with this type of watercolor. And so I really love using concentrated watercolor, or sometimes it's called ink. So this is Dr. P.H. Martin's Scarlet, and that's what you're seeing right here. And I just absolutely love it. This is really a nice brand because it has the dropper. Although I will say I'm a little partial to the Windsor & Newton because the packaging is so cute. I wish it had the dropper though. That's like a huge downside, but this is Scarlet, and I don't know why it's called Scarlet, because this Scarlet and this Scarlet are two different things. Like this makes a really crazy bright hot pink. And then this one makes like, cherry red. And if you use it super concentrated and not watered down, it's like a blood red. And along with those, there is the Canary Yellow, which I find really nice because the yellow watercolors that are solid can kind of have a chalky look to them. And so this is really great. It's a really vibrant look, and I just dip my paintbrush into these. Now, if you have another color, if you're mixing, you will kind of contaminate your color, and that did happen to one of my yellows. My yellow turned like blackish brown by the time I was almost done using it, so that's a downside, but you could probably buy little droppers to use separately. The Windsor & Newton inks also come in metallic. So we have here this silver, and it's just so cool. And it is shiny. it is not as sparkly as the gold. But I used this when I was doing Mermaid, and in my shop I have some Mer Bunny prints that afterwards I go back in and I touch up with the silver ink, and it's really pretty. And then this is the gold, and you can see it's kind of settled, and you just shake it up, and now you can see it's just like super magical, glittery. And there is still some kind of stuck in the bottom, so sometimes I have to put my like paintbrush in there, or you could use like a, I don't know, end of a paintbrush and mix it up, because all of this glitter is just like concentrated at the bottom, but it's just gorgeous, and it's really fun when I get the chance to use this. I don't do it often, because if you do it on your artwork and then you want to sell it as a print, if you scan it, the scan doesn't really reflect how cool the metallic is. And occasionally on my channel you will see me creating acrylic pieces. For those I'm just using basically craft paint, but also some acrylic paints. Nothing too special, but to outline, to add my little details, you might see me using these paint pens. This is, I guess this is just acrylic brand. It just says acrylic, and these are usually like under lock and key at your craft store or art store. And so I have those in a few different colors. I first discovered this when I was doing a mural for this children's area, and it was just like really painstaking to outline everything with a paintbrush, and this thing was just awesome. So it worked on the wall too, which is really cool. It can go on all kinds of different things. It's water-based. I think it says on here what you can use it on. Oh, and these get a refill. Also, your Copic markers have a refill. These are usually like $7.50 or $8, which is kind of expensive, but they do last a long time. And then you can get the refill. You can basically, you pull out the end of this thingy here. Actually, I could just do it for you now. I have little tweezers that I use for this, but I can do it with my fingers. So you pull it out, and then you just pour your ink in there. And I had no idea. So that was awesome when I discovered that, because it saves a lot of money. The refill's like the same price as the marker, but it has like 3 times the amount of ink as the marker. So it's definitely worth it, and better for the environment to not be throwing away all these plastic marker tubes all the time. This other paint pen is Molotov or Molotov. I don't know how to say it. But it's an acrylic marker similar to these. And I love this hot pink. You can use it on paper, canvas, whatever. So that's pretty cool. And lastly, I will just show you this little find. I wish I remember the brand of it, because I threw away the packaging, but I'll try to link it below if I can find it. This is a little bear pen holder, and you can take it with you. They have pigs and dogs and cats too. I was looking for a bunny, but they didn't have one. And then you can have all your goodies inside, and this little elastic loop, you can stick like an eraser in it. But not only does it open like this and it stands up like that, but it also pops down like that. So all of your little shorty pencils are more visible, and it also is just more stable, and it will stand there. So you can take this to the coffee shop and have lots of fun. So here we have my Copic marker that is the light rouge. So it's not too bad, actually. Well, it's nice and juicy. It does really help if your markers are juicy, because then they blend better with each other and with the paper. And then we have Scarlet. You'll see just how bright this is. It's just like a hot pink, like hibiscus colored. It's really pretty. I love that. And you can see how the watercolor just looks a little bit better on this paper than the Copic marker does. And then lastly, I will show you this paint marker, the hot pink one. So that just like is really solid. It's really cool. They're a lot of fun, and it's super matte looking. It doesn't have any shine, which I think is kind of fun. It does kind of enhance the fuzziness of this particular paper. So, you know, you have to decide whether or not you like that. I'll also show you the difference between the two pens that I like. The Uniball versus the micron. So, for one thing, it is a thicker point, but it is pretty thin on this paper because this paper is not super like absorbent, but on the mixed media it would bleed a little bit more than that. Then here is the micron, which is like almost a microscopic tip. So that just has more of like a light touch look to it. But both are really cool. I like them both. And I will show you what my Payne's Gray watercolor looks like, which I really love. So kind of like a bluish blackness to it. And I can fade it and make it a little lighter. I can go back in with some and kind of add it, you know. So watercolor is like a lot of things you can do to play with it, but show you close. Yeah, and you can see that this one is almost dry and it hasn't really lost any of its vibrancy. The grays do tend to get lighter as they dry. And I thought you guys might be interested to see what this looks like and how amazing it is. I am going to get my brush pretty deep in there because I really do want to get some of that goodness in the bottom. So it's kind of like a little slightly clumpy in there, but it's really, really cool. And I'm going to try to show you guys, if I can, what this does as it's like drying and being painted on there. Can you see that? They're like moving. I love it so much. It's so cool. So that is like sparkly. Whereas the silver one is more shiny. So you can see it's like not even dry yet and it's still really shiny. Looks like gray right now, but when the light hits it, it's just like pow. Thanks for watching, guys, and if you would like to see a video on type of paper that I like, I have that footage filmed, but I didn't want this video to be like crazy long, so just comment below if you would like that, and like and subscribe if you'd like to see more. Thanks!